Welcome back. Another great panel at the Centre Court MBA Festival with poets and quants. My name is Matt Symonds. I'm the co-host with John Byrne, and we're taking these 2 days to sit down with the MBA admissions officers, students, alumni of the world's leading business schools to discuss both the personal and the professional benefits of an MBA and set you up for long-term success. So thank you for being with us. If you're watching live or coming in from the four corners of the world, it's great to have you with us. And let me introduce my guests for this next session. It's always a pleasure to welcome Naz Eranguk. Naz is the Director of Admissions at the Warrington College at UT, Florida. I should call you Doctor just one of these times, Naz. You earned that PhD. Forgive me. Joined by Renee Bodbo, who is the Executive Director of the MBA programs, and there's a great portfolio at Kennesaw State. And then from Austin, Patrick Olson, an Assistant Director of Full-Time MBA recruiting at the McCombs School. So welcome, all three of you. And it's a great sense of just how many wonderful options are out there for candidates, and their personal professional development. Perhaps, Naz, we can start with you. You're going to talk about Gators. I know you're going to talk about Gators, but tell us about what makes Warrington College of Business such a special place.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And thank you for the Poets and Quants team for having us back. To your point, it's always great to have a Gator everywhere. So here I am. But no, I appreciate it. Let me take just a moment to give you a little bit of context about the Warrington College of Business. So we have been offering our MBA program since 1948. I promise this won't be a long history lesson. But over the course of our tenure of offering our MBA program, we have continued to expand our portfolio. Of course, I know Center Court is focused on our full-time offerings. And so we have three phenomenal full-time MBA options, a traditional 2-year format, and then 2 one-year programs for those who are really looking to maximize their return on investment. And so, I'm excited to take a deeper dive into why we're so special and why everybody should be thinking about becoming a Gator, but I'll kind of lead with the fact that, because we are small by design and because we've been offering our program for as long as we have been able to really fine-tune the offerings at Warrington to not only be able to give you that customized career coaching, your one-on-one academic advising, your both in and outside of the classroom experiences that we'll talk about later on. But I think really the core of it is we are a Gator community who cares, and we are a community that really wants to bolster our future business Gator leaders for years and generations to come.
Thanks for getting us started, Naz. And just for the record, we call it an MBA festival because, for us to be able to share your experiences, your insights, there's so many different options for people at different stages of their lives and their development. And Renee, that's certainly true for Kennesaw State, the flexibility of some of your programs for working professionals. So tell us about Kennesaw and the different portfolio of MBA programs.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. It's great to be here with you and my colleagues today. So Kennesaw State University is actually now the 3rd largest university in the state of Georgia, and Coles College of Business, which hosts our MBA programs, is the 2nd largest business school in the state of Georgia. We're located just 20 minutes north of Atlanta. We have a great market here, one of the hottest job markets, I would say, in the country. And we really specialize in working professionals. So we have 3 MBA offerings. We have our part-time evening program. We have an online program, which is called the Web MBA, and we have an executive program. So all 3 of those programs have a variety of flexible options. And actually starting in the fall of 25, I'm pleased to announce here today, our evening MBA program will also be available fully online if students choose to go that route synchronously for 2 of our concentrations, information security and assurance and fintech. So we're very proud about that. We have 9 concentrations in our evening program, and I look forward to speaking a little bit more about some of the differentiators and value add that we think our programs deliver.
Well, I look forward, Renee, to talking about how all of your schools develop a curriculum that reflects, whether it's fintech or information systems and security, where the markets are headed and the future for your graduates. But I guess all 3 of you share in common, a dynamic economy in Florida, what you were saying about Georgia, and it's such a great job market, and that's equally true for Austin, which is an increasing hub for so many companies. And Patrick, welcome the Longhorns and life at McCombs. Tell us about the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you for having us. Again, my name is Patrick. I'm the assistant director for the full-time MBA program. We do have 5 MBA programs that fall into our portfolio, 3 of which are in Austin, Texas, and we do have one in Dallas, Texas, and one in Houston, Texas. Again, I work for our full-time MBA program, which is your traditional 2-year full-time immersive experience. We also have an evening program in Austin, an executive weekend program in Austin. And then we also have weekend programs that meet in Houston and meet in Dallas. So wherever you are in the state of Texas, we are there to serve and be a resource. And Texas McCombs has a far reach across the state. So excited to be here.
It's great to have you with us. I guess with the suite of programs, Naz, you and your team, all of you, a very personal approach and very warm, and the time that you spend with applicants and finding the right program for them. So if I was going to say, okay, at Warrington, what's the typical class profile like? Perhaps that's a different response for the full-time program, and then some of the part-time options as people are fitting that with other work and personal commitments.
Yeah, no, Matt. I mean, I think that everybody watching today, you have to kind of start asking yourselves the questions of, what type of experience do you want? Do you want, a fully residential Monday through Friday experience where you're basically quitting your job and relocating to, let's say, Gainesville, Florida, or are you going to keep your job and do this MBA kind of on a part-time basis? And so within the portfolio of Warrington, of course, we do have our traditional full-time formats. We also offer an online and executive format. We have a program down in South Florida at our satellite facility in Miramar. And I know you and I talked about this. The news on the street is, we are moving to operate also a campus out of Jacksonville, Florida. And so what that actually means is that in offering a vast portfolio, that allows my team and I to sit and understand each and every prospective student and MBA candidate to kind of think, what do they need in kind of this objective of trying to kind of build their business acumen? And so sometimes it makes sense for people to move to Gainesville. Sometimes it doesn't make sense for people to move to Gainesville. And so offering a fully online asynchronous program might be the option for somebody who is coming from out of state or out of country. But we also offer, programs for those who have a little bit more professional experience, our seasoned professionals that would rather be in a classroom with other seasoned professionals, and maybe they're looking to do our executive MBA program. But being able to have kind of this geographic presence throughout the state of Florida, as well as this online presence, and we continue to, pride ourselves on our strong rankings in all of our full portfolio in individual programs, I think is really important. But getting back to your question, whether that's, a full-time program class size might only have about 15 in our 1-year programs. It might have about 35 in our 2-year format. Typically, you'll see across the portfolio our, gender, kind of gap, if you will. We typically have about 30% females. In some classes, it goes up to closer to 50%. Obviously, it's our objective to get that over 50%. But, because also where we're positioned, we get a lot of military and service members. So typically across our portfolio, we see about 10 to 15% military representation. And then, of course, when you think about academic backgrounds, who will you share this experience with? It's interesting because not all students are just coming from a typical business background. More often than not, we see MBAs are looking to pursue this degree because they're looking to build their business acumen. So I would say, probably only about 20% of our students have business undergraduate majors. And we do have a specific program designed for those who have already a business undergrad degree within the last 7 years, our accelerated programs. But that just means that everybody else comes from all different academic backgrounds, all different professional experiences, experiences. And so it really adds to kind of the overall classroom discussions, and it really provides a lot of color when it comes to the how you can apply certain concepts, whether it be in supply chain management or finance, into different industries or functional areas. And then last, I'll just tell you that for our part-time programs, our class sizes can vary anywhere from about 35 to 40 students in our weekend base or executive MBA program, up to about 75 in our online cohorts. But I think at the end of the day, what we're looking for are people with diverse backgrounds, with a lot of various, professional experience and lived academic experiences. And so that will come through when you see our cohorts.
When we think about that diversity of backgrounds, Renee, and how that will then feed into, really insightful classroom discussions, perhaps a couple of thoughts. When you talked about candidates, when is the right time to go back to business school? And that must be very personal for each individual. And then again, as they think about, campus-based versus, hey, I started my own business, or, my career's going really well, and the online option. So is there a right time? And then the right blend and delivery?
Well, great question. Actually, I was just thinking about that this morning. We all know that business is about people, and in most cases, it's about someone else giving you a chance, whether they're hiring you or promoting you, or if you're an entrepreneur, a client or a customer soliciting your business or hiring you. But this is one of the rare opportunities where someone can actually promote themselves by going back to get that master's degree. And an MBA is a classic degree that just continues to keep going. We place a lot of emphasis on keeping the MBA relevant. And so, we're going to talk a little bit more about AI and analytics and digital tools that we're all utilizing. But it's so important now. It's just an opportunity for someone to self-select to go back. So whenever the time is right for you to make the next move in your career, that's about the time, I think, when it's a good opportunity to go back and get that MBA. And we all have a wonderful offering here. I think, pay attention to where you ultimately maybe want to work, what's geographic location, because, that university will have a robust career center with great relationships. For us at Kennesaw, we are the KSU strategic priority is national prominence, actually. And over the last year, we've joined Conference USA. So we are Division I, and of course, I'm talking about our sports teams, but it's really trickled out throughout the entire university. So from the question about the last semester admits would be fall 24. So I can say from that perspective, we're mostly regional, but we are starting to see more applications come in from perhaps, we're starting to see actually a lot from LA, we have a robust film industry here in Atlanta, and we're starting to see a lot of people from California to make their way over to Georgia. And we're just a great option for that. But this last class was mostly regional. It's about 95% of people who are already working full time. So they're able to stack that MBA onto a format that fits for them. In our evening program, the median age is at 27. And, we just answered all of those surveys. So I have these stats available to me. I'll just share. We have about 50% female in all three of our programs. We have a healthy amount of transitioning veterans. And just for the evening MBA, just in terms of our diversity stats, we're 42% white, 28% Black, 14% Hispanic, 6% Asian American. We're 5% non-residential international students. So we are going to be looking at getting our programs perhaps STEM approved. At this point, they're not STEM approved, but should that happen in the next year, we see that number increasing, but we're largely domestic right now. Really, we don't have a cap on the amount of students that we admit to our program. We're still in growth mode. We are definitely still in innovation and growth mode. So for evening, we had about 200 students enter in so far this year. For our web MBA, we're at about 136. And for the executive program, our cohorts are typically around 30 to 40.
Well, there's something I'd love to pick up, Patrick, from what Renee just said about giving people a chance. And already, a candidate thinking about going back to school, the chances, the opportunities, the new doors that are open. But of course, that it works in both directions. And you and your colleagues in recruitment at McDonough are giving all of these talented individuals a chance to join your school, your community. So as you look at them, nobody's truly defined by their GMAT or GRE score. What are the sort of things, the characteristics, your personality, experiences that they might have had that you say, hey, we're going to take a chance on this person, come into the McCombs community?
Yeah, great question. And can't echo enough that your students are more than just their test scores and their GPA. Those are factors, but they're one of many. I'm trying to think of examples of students who didn't have the best test scores and like why we still took a chance on them and how they're doing. And some narratives that come to mind are students who are student athletes at Division I schools. I can think of some West Point athletes who didn't have the strongest GPAs, but they're at West Point also playing a sport and then serve their country. And so of course we're going to take some chances on those students, and they've always proven to be successful. Other students who have had difficult or tough upbringings, we understand that there's going to be some correlation with your financial status, with your GPA, and with test scores, and so we want to recognize that there might have been some hardships in there. I think at the heart of this, I always like to make sure students know that we don't make assumptions about students. Students need to tell us their stories. And so we don't know anything about the applicant until they tell us. And so we can't assume you had a hardship and that's why your GPA is low, or assume something happened in your family. Like, you need to tell us those stories, and it takes a sense of honesty and vulnerability to do that in this process. But we are trying to get to know the student. And I always talk about the three things that we're trying to check boxes when making our admissions decisions. One, can you pass the classes? Two, do you know what you want to do when you graduate, and can we help you get there? And number three is, do you understand our culture and how you're going to add value to it? So it's one, them demonstrating that they are going to add value to the program, but also understanding the culture that we have at Texas McCombs, because the three of us are different schools with different cultures and vibes, and there's dozens of schools to choose from. So students need to do their research and make sure they understand what makes McCombs different and special, and then what makes them different and special, and how that kind of comes together to make the perfect combination of a place for them to spend 2 years, because it's a huge investment of themselves, of time and money, and it has to be a good fit. I always like to say it's like more like dating than just you applying to get into a school. It has to be a good mutual fit.
Right. It's lovely that the emphasis that all of you place on, looking for that potential, looking for those strong qualities. It's about admitting people rather than rejecting them. Perhaps, Naz, that's something that you and your team very clearly, as you look through these stories and beyond what job titles and qualifications, to understand what grit, adaptability, what are some of the things that you like to see at Warrington?
Yeah, so I think to that point, Matt, it's grit. You said it, that is something time and time again. It's how has somebody overcome, a challenge? And in fact, when we interview our candidates, oftentimes the two questions that I love to ask are, tell me about a time in which you had a conflict, and how did you resolve that professional conflict? How did you grow from that? Because it's not about the conflict itself. It's how somebody has enough introspection and self-awareness to be able to kind of reflect on their own growth. But in addition to that, we also are looking for that perseverance. We know that recognize that the job market today, it's competitive. And so we want students to be hungry, to have that grit and tenacity, to be able to roll up their sleeves and be able to not only, be well-versed in everything that we're teaching in the classroom, but also being able to take charge and be excited about all the outside of the classroom opportunities we have. So being excited, engaged, having that self-awareness, so it's in that interview process. The two questions I love to ask, going back to that, are what is, growth, and what is something that you're proud of, so that we can kind of see how individuals, how they're thinking, how they can see this MBA really fitting into their larger life goals. It's not every day that somebody wakes up and says, hey, let me spend a considerable amount of time, energy, money, and sweat equity into doing an MBA program. So, but how can we kind of really understand through that lens, through their voice, through their applications, that they are ready to embark on this experience, because I think that if someone is excited, if they're energetic, if they want to give back to the classroom, if they want to participate in all the things that we have to offer, and can do so with that grit and understanding that maybe what they were looking to do at the beginning of the program might not be where they land at the end of the program, and use the coaching and all of the resources that we have to help get there, then I think what that will tell us is that they're not only ready for this, but they're ready to be wonderful brand ambassadors for years to come.
Right. Renee, Patrick had described vulnerability, which implies a level of self-awareness. But the candidate says, wait a second, this is an MBA. How sensitive do I need to be? I thought we'd be looking at balance sheets and calculating discounted cash flow. But there is this balance, right, between analytics, number skills, and EQ. So when you look at applicants, it's not that they need to be a rocket science, good enough with the numbers, but also the self-awareness that was being described.
Absolutely. Business is about people. And even if you are working as a data scientist or an analytics practitioner, you're still going to be at some point dealing with people. So we really take a holistic view of our applicants. We don't actually require test scores anymore. As of last year, none of our grad programs require test scores. They're optional. If a candidate thinks that it excuse me, it may enhance their application, they can certainly submit them. But we really look for a strong combination of undergraduate GPA and some work experience, depending on the program. Our evening program actually, because we have double OWL pathways, so we have like an undergraduate could also stack an MBA. We have 18 pathways, so we don't have a minimum work requirement for the evening program. But for our web program, we really do. It's 2 years minimum. And then for our executive program, we typically see candidates at about 10 years of work experience. But and the web program, excuse me, the executive program is the only of the three that requires an interview. And so in that case, we're looking for a candidate that would be a good fit, but also we recognize that someone may be coming to an executive program who may not already be an executive. They may just still be trying to get to that next level in their career. And so we really approach that interview with a lot of grace and asking the students questions on, what do they think they would be able to contribute to our community? Because that community in particular is so impressive with the amount of alum who graduated from that program. We just made an announcement this morning of 15 alum from that program who got promotions over the last month. But they really stick together. Going back to business being about people, the alumni community as well is a great place to help advance your career. And during our executive MBA residency weekends, our alum are lining up to come back to help those students to make sure they're successful in the program and then beyond.
Presumably, Patrick, when you read these applications, then this wonderful moment of welcoming them to McCombs and for the next 2 years, and then through working with career management, the different clubs and activities that Renee and Naz were, this extraordinary journey that you're taking with them. Can you really see that whether it's leadership and learning to lead other people and teams, is it really tangible to you between when you meet them first day and 2 years later as they graduate?
Yeah, I mean, I have sort of a unique position where I get the privilege of meeting these students a year, 2 years before they potentially step foot on the campus. So I can remember where I was sitting in certain hotel lobbies and certain coffee shops and certain bars around the world talking to students before they got to campus. And then, you read their application, you met them and you're cheering for them, and then they decide to come, and then they're there for 2 years, and you watch them not only develop kind of their leadership, but also kind of find their path and where they want to go, and see them debating whether or not to go to business school, and then debating whether or not to go to McCombs, and then debating on what to do. And then you get to watch them navigate this journey of a lot of big life-changing moments. And we get to be part of that and cheer them along the way. So our students are, they're top-notch when they get there, and then they're just sharpening those skills and developing and then making their impact in the world when they graduate. It's just a privilege to be a a part of it, and then they come back as alumni, and then we can't even get rid of them. They're still around. And so it's a fun circle to then they come back to the events that I met them at the first time around. And it's just a fun process to be a part of.
Yeah, it speaks to extraordinary communities and that sense of belonging and loyalty. In terms of do candidates need to know what that post-MBA career vision looks like, Naz, or is that something that they're then going to explore and summer internships and looking at new doors to open?
Yeah, so I mean, typically when we offer admission, that comes with a crystal ball. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't. No, but I think what actually this is part of the application process, specifically for, I'll say, for our full-time MBA students, because our full-time MBA students, they are all having to quit their job to do a fully residential program. And so as part of the full-time application process, students must, interview not only with the admissions team, but they also have to interview with our career coaches. And what that means is that, we start to have the conversations with our candidates about what are the job prospects. Because I think that's really important is that, you might not know exactly what you want to do post-graduation, but it's how can we start seeing the transferable skill sets that an applicant possesses in this early stage? Because there's a huge risk associated with, of course, leaving your employment and doing a fully residential program. And so things such as interviewing candidates, by our business career coaches early on is one way of doing so. And then, of course, offering robust scholarships is another way that we can help minimize that. But going back to the career specific question, even for our part-time executive and online students, all of our students have access to a dedicated career coach. But the level of involvement will be a little bit different, whether you're a full-time versus a part-time student. Now, that doesn't mean that a part-time student can't still participate in all of our career showcases and corporate info sessions or national career fairs, things like that. We open all of our career, resources to all of our MBA students. But having said that, as a full-time student, I think it's important to start asking the questions as you're thinking about even what schools you're interested in. What are some of the companies that students have hired into? What company contacts do schools have? Who is recruiting their students? What types of roles their students are going into? But I think at Warrington specifically, and I touched on this early on, is the small class size allows our career coaches to give our students that individualized approach. When you only have about, let's call it, 60 seekers every year, then that means that one career coach is able to really understand each and every student's needs, and whether that's career coaching to get to that internship between year 1 and year 2 of that full-time 2-year program, or if it's, hey, you just started in the summer and now you're going into career season, in September, October, that means that there's a very short lead time to helping our students not only get them integrated within the curriculum, but also giving them understanding about what types of roles MBAs are looking for and what types of, what types of transferable skill sets are employers looking in today's MBA. And so that's something that's really, really important. And I would say that anybody who's listening today, whether you are looking to keep your job or you're looking to quit your job, just know that at Warrington, you will have a dedicated career coach, and the path might not look the same for everybody, but that's because we're all different and we all have different objectives, where you want to land in terms of geography, where you want to land in terms of types of functional role. All of these things are going to vary. So being able to understand that you have a vast career team that will help you, I think, is the main thing that you should take away.
As we think about transferable skills, and you may well have a crystal ball, Naz, but Renee, we were talking earlier about fintech and information security and how both the core curriculum and then electives continue to evolve and reflect the skill sets of tomorrow and hiring needs. So at Kennesaw and at Coles, what is the approach to ensure that what they're learning is going to prepare them and be job proof for tomorrow?
Sure. It's such an important topic. I think it's one of the most important questions that a prospective MBA needs to be asking when they're considering a program is how does your school or how do your faculty feel about AI, analytics, digital transformation, digital tools built into the curriculum? Because it really is, it's here and it's going to be a part of our future. And there's so many wonderful uses already for AI. And we're really just getting started. So what we have done is partner with several of our faculty. We're conducting AI experiments within our existing curriculum. And we've seen some very interesting results. You know, at first, obviously faculty, their job is to certify that the students have an understanding of the subject matter. So you have to be careful with how you use AI. So we do believe in the ethical use of AI in our MBA program. We want our MBAs to have the skills, but then also be able to go in with that applied curriculum, learn something, you know, 1 week, and then return to their office and return to work and then put that into practice immediately. We want them to impress their employer to the point that they get a promotion. So we really think that we're doing that in all of our programs. We listen to the students as well. You know, it's a two-way street. We want our students to be telling us the skills that they need to be competitive as well. We think it's a really great partnership, and we look forward to even more AI experiments. But truly what we learned in the last one in our capstone class is that at first we were like, well, if we let all the students use AI, you know, we have one control group that was not using AI. What is this really going to do? You know, is this going to make sure that they're not learning the subject? But what we found is that the students who already had a grasp on the material, well, the AI just made them better. It made them more efficient and they could go deeper into the subject. But the students who didn't have a grasp on the subject matter, it didn't help them that much. They still had to first learn the subject matter. So once our faculty member, Robert Randolph, was able to present those findings at the AI symposium, other faculty members had more of a comfort level with using the AI in the classrooms. And so really for the last year, that's what we've been doing. And we've been updating our curriculum every chance that we get. And we're actually now going to be offering a certificate in AI, generative AI, in our executive MBA program. And we're very excited about that. And I did want to, Matt, if you don't mind me, just adding on to Naz's earlier conversation, I think career services is really important. On all three of our programs, we offer career services, and I think it's an incredible value. Our programs start at $20,000, around $20K for our evening program all in. And our executive program is less than half of the other executive MBA programs in the Atlanta Metro. So our rates are set by the University System of Georgia, and we're benefiting from that. And we're very thankful to be able to deliver that value to the students in this market.
I'm thinking, Patrick, and we should applaud ourselves. We got 30 minutes through before we even raised the subject of AI, but now, you know, Pandora's box. AI is embedded in the word Austin, but AI is also embedded in the word accounting. And I remember 20 years ago in US News, you know, McCombs was one of the top schools for accounting. Great school for so many things. That surely reflects, Patrick, how the program, perhaps even company engagements and opportunities to do projects with partners at the school. Again, how do you ensure relevance and that your students are then being equipped with skills, not even just for that first job, but maybe for the second, third job, 3 years, 5 years out of McCombs?
Sure. Well, to answer your question about AI directly, 2024 was the university's year of AI. So there was a big University of Texas-wide focus on all things AI, from not just McCombs, but all of our 18 different colleges. I just learned that 2025 is now the year of energy. So AI is done. We're over that. But no, we're still very much focused on AI. We've introduced 2 classes into our core curriculum that are AI focused. We've from the beginning been a school who's said, let's lean into it. When it was the scary part of like, what do we do? How do we handle this? Or do we prevent people? How do we stop cheating? McCombs has always been like, let's learn how to use this tool and adapt this tool and work with this tool because it's not going anywhere. I think you also see a lot of MBA programs are starting to shift more towards I don't like the term, so if someone could come up with a better one, but soft skills, MBA programs are really leaning into those because, yeah, some of the things that used to be taught in a traditional MBA can be done by robots now. But managing people and managing emotions and leading teams, AI hasn't figured that one out yet. So those are skills that are leaning into. And then, of course, being in the city of Austin, it's a tech hub. A lot of companies are already here or are moving here. And so we are blessed that our students do get a lot of hands-on experience when they're in the program. We like to think that's something that does differentiate us from other schools is our students can get their hands dirty while they're there and are rubbing elbows with employers regularly. We have McCombs Plus projects. So these are something that we advertise out to our Austin community and say, hey, big companies, small companies, startups, everything in between. Any problems you want MBAs to solve? And they'll submit their proposals. We'll say, hey, MBAs, we got some companies that need some help. Here they are. Here are the projects. Who wants to work on them? They'll form teams. And there's a delicate matching period there where they'll spend a semester working with Ford Bronco and how to better their marketing towards women, or for the Austin Spurs, a local a feeder team to the San Antonio Spurs and how to increase their revenue and their people attending their games. One of the more fun ones is Austin FC, which is our new soccer team. There's a partnership there as well. So there's some cool things and that our students can really sink their teeth into while they're here, which is great for our students who are pivoting careers. Because if they want to go into something that they've like energy or marketing and they have a military background or education background, how do they get their foot in the door and how do they talk about those experiences confidently in an internship when they have zero experience in those spaces? These projects allow students ways to have something to talk about and get their hands dirty, so they can have a leg up and hopefully land that internship, which we all hope leads to a job.
Right. Now, if 2025 NAS is the year of energy for McCombs, I know that's true for you personally, and that was also true for you last year and the year before that with the energy that you have. But as we think about either sectors, skills, perhaps also there's a sense of values and a sense of purpose in individuals and where business school fits in that aspect of their development. That also applies to the personality of a school, right? And maybe that's where we get back to Gators of finding the culture, the personality where they're really going to thrive. So what sort of advice do you like to give to candidates as they think about, where's going to be a home from home, where they're really going to thrive?
Yeah. So, I think that is a really important question. And let me just take a moment to talk about the value of the ecosystem in the swamp. And I'm not talking about the literal swamp, although there's a lot of synergies in that too, is there's so many different ways in which, a gator can thrive here in the MBA swamplands. And so, in talking about that thriving nature, it's how do we support our students through all lenses and that culture, I think Patrick brought up a great point, Renee also, it's how do we marry the transferable skill sets with the soft skill sets, with the tactical skill sets. So really looking at this holistic approach. And so, we always talk about this idea of like, let us offer as much as possible to all of our students, recognizing that not everything will stick. But like different things in ecosystems, things will be stickier, other things won't be, and there will be ways in which, one person may flourish over one thing compared to another. And so, offering things such as, Excel training, Power BI, Scrum Master, Python training, even going to the Ocala National Forest and doing a primitive leadership course or going on our global immersion trips. These are all ways that we can kind of really help round out our student today. And so, all of the support that we offer, not only from the admissions point through the, career coaches to our experiential learning team, to our academic advisors, to of course the gold of our program, our faculty, it's, all the different touch points to really round out this experience, I think is really, an important one. And I think that any program that you look at is not only looking at all of the opportunities you have to engage, but also looking at how excited the team is about being agile and being able to deliver new things that will be representative of what the MBA today, what types of skill sets, tactical and soft skill sets, companies are looking for in an MBA today. And that's something that I think we do really, really well here in the ecosystem of the swamp.
Well, so an ecosystem, and you're just feeling comfortable in your new surroundings, new home. Renee, you'd mentioned, people moving from Hollywood. There's a thriving film industry scene in Atlanta, and presumably, moving halfway across the country, presumably then being able to join this business school community is a great way to settle in, have connections. Is that something that you see among the students, how they were able to really assimilate a thriving Atlanta, Georgia environment?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the fastest ways to get plugged into a new city is to take a enroll in a graduate program. And absolutely, there's networking opportunities. We bring employers to campus. We take students to see employers. We have guest speakers. We have lecture series here. It's just a wonderful networking opportunity. And then, of course, as most of our students are working professionals in the program, that just broadens your network there for potential opportunities. But really, when I think about KSU, innovation is the word that comes to mind. And for our MBA programs, it's sort of where experience meets innovation. And, we have the 9 concentrations in our evening program, but we're offering one starting this fall it's the first in the country. It's called Rural Management. It's a rural management MBA, and we're just absolutely thrilled to bring this to market, not only for the rural communities in Georgia, but really throughout the US, where we are hoping to make that available online by 2026. And but really it's solving sustainability, infrastructure challenges, even preparing the next generation of rural leaders. And there's been a lot of interest in that program. So I'm very happy to be able to talk about that here today.
It's great to hear about it on Center Court because, in the weeks, months that follow, people, as we've said earlier, everyone's got their own personal background and stories and motivations, and that's just going to click. So great that you were able to share that. Now, being able to click, Patrick, in terms of getting to know McCombs, you've been generous in your time joining us at Center Court. Other ways, touch points for McCombs, perhaps coffee chats. You mentioned your travel and coffee that you had in different venues around the world. But what are great ways to get a better sense of McCombs and its culture?
Yeah, I mean, we invite everyone to come to campus if they can. I want to recognize that there's privilege with that statement, but if you can come to campus, we would love to have you. On Mondays and Thursdays, we have a great, I call it MBA for a day, where you come in and you sit in and have class. You start with lunch with our students, and then you sit on a class with our students, and then you tour the building with our students, and then you sit down with admissions at the end of all of that. And every hour we're rotating in different current MBA students to engage. So that's every Monday and Thursday. We have a lot of virtual events, as you can imagine, but then just keeping an eye on where we're traveling to. We recognize not everyone can come to us, so we try and go to them. Just this year alone, I've been to Boston twice, New York twice, Washington, D.C. I'll be going to Mexico in March, to Mexico City and to Monterrey. My colleague Stacy is flying to India in the month of March. And so we're all over the globe. So, try and come to us as well. And then, of course, use LinkedIn as a tool and try and find people who have connections with McCombs. You also find on our website that we have 90 students who have raised their hands and say, like, yes, I'm available to talk to students if they're interested. And you can see their full profiles, where they came from before school, where they are hoping to go afterwards, the clubs they're in, the activities they belong to. And so take advantage of that. Again, this is a huge investment in yourself, and making sure it's the right fit is important. And every podcast on MBAs and website always focuses on like career stats, which is important. But I always hear very little talk about the culture of the school and fitting in there for 2 years and living there for 2 years. And, Austin's not perfect. It gets hot in the months of May, June, July, August. Be aware of that. Every school is going to have its pros and cons, and making sure you're going to be happy for 2 years there is important.
Right. And whether, sitting in on a class, as Patrick mentioned, Naz, that would be great. And raising your hand, hopefully you didn't ask a dumb question, but that's okay too, right? You don't have to have everything worked out as we reach out to your teams to talk through business school and possible next steps. So Gators and getting in touch with you, what would you recommend?
Yeah, just give me a call, email me. I love being, outward facing, approachable team. So please reach out to my team or I, feel free. We do weekly virtual info sessions, coffee chats. We're all over the place. I'll be in New York this weekend. So, please let me know, but just pick up the phone, send us an email. We'll gladly connect.
Great. And Renee, perhaps a final word from you and both community and just getting to know Kennesaw and Coles better.
Thank you so much. And before I forget, I do want to let you know what our URL is. It's very simple, ksumba.com. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email at kennesaw.edu address. But thank you for the opportunity to be here and share more about our exciting school.
I can testify how quickly you respond to those LinkedIns. I remember that, Renee. Well, thank you all three of you, because just taking the time to be able to connect with our global audience as they think about their next steps and give it such color. And 2025, the year of energy, you always bring that to Center Court, and we're very, very grateful. So Renee, Patrick, Naz, thank you. It was great to see you.